Hey, welcome to the Mandatory Social Interaction Show. I'm your host, Eric, along with my co-hosts, I'm not sure, the probably tired Tim, and the very relieved Ben, because he's already done with his thing today.
One of my many things today, but yes.
So, how's it going, guys?
It's going.
Doing pretty well. I am tired, but good.
I was up way too late last night.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, Tim, I know Tim was up late because I was up late with him, watching him stream over there on Mixer. And Ben has no excuse. I don't know why he's got nothing. Nothing is happening for Ben this weekend. It's just low key and chill. No.
Nothing ever happens for me anymore. It's all just sitting there and watching other people do stuff. I never have to do anything myself.
So Ben and Tim have been insanely busy this last week, and we're going to start with last weekend. Last weekend was super cool. That was their Extra Life charity stream. They were streaming games and various other things for 24 hours straight. And how
stayed up the majority of it, right?
Yeah, how'd that go, guys?
It went really well.
Yeah, it went really well. We were joined by Attack Burger, the Formal Ghost, and Mimi is a Nerd over on Mixer. So if you are inclined to go check them out, they're pretty awesome. But we were all up in Minnesota. That's where they live, and I visited them because Ben was gracious enough to put me up for the weekend. And we raised some money for Extra Life, which is a charity that benefits Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And we specifically were raising funds for Gillette Children's Specialty Healthcare, which is a hospital there in Minnesota that does some really great work for helping make kids feel better and more comfortable and, that sort of stuff. So it went really well. It was fun. We went 24 hours. I can't believe we survived it.
I barely survived it. Most of my week for the past 4 days has been recovering from that.
Yeah, I still haven't fully recovered. Maybe I have, which is probably why I was able to stay up so late last night. But with staying up 24 hours and then going to being a tourist for a day and then flying back, it took it out of me. I've been struggling all week. So
yeah, me too. But it's getting better. I'm able to not get through, not die halfway through the day. So
yeah, naps are my friend.
So how much money did you guys raise?
At the very end, we raised $1,077.
Nice, very good.
Which is awesome. We did the fundraiser over on my channel, Encirclement Theater on Mixer.
Yeah, because you're the famous one.
Yeah, famous.
We're all riding we're riding your coattails, Tim.
I just happen to have the highest follow count. That's all. Which is a miracle
proof that you're more famous than we are.
Follows nothing.
Exactly.
Numbers are bigger than our numbers. So
that number is bigger.
That's how it works.
But we had a really good time, and we played a ton of games. Ben created some music and some art, if you want to call it art. We had a really good time, though. It was a ton of fun. The VOD is still up over there on Mixer. It's split into 2 VODs because we restarted the stream about 3 hours in because we were having some issues with frames dropping. But yeah, it's all out there if you want to check it out. I was considering making some highlights, but I'm way too lazy to go through 24 hours of content and trim out the best stuff. So,
well, if I were to suggest highlights, it would be the Quiplash coincidence.
Oh yeah.
I still want to get my stream stuff just so I can post it, but I can hassle you on that later.
Yeah. I can download that VOD for you if you need me to.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah, not a big deal. But it was fun. And Eric, you came by the day after, right? And
yeah, I came by to see the aftermath, and y'all looked pretty worn out, but it was a good time. Ben made some amazing pizza muffins, and it was awesome actually meeting you in person, Tim.
Yes.
That was super cool, and meeting Reki, that was fantastic and formal, of course.
For those who are uninitiated, Reki is my wife. So, for those listening at home who might not know.
Yeah.
But she's a staple on my streams as well. She comes by and hangs out on stream every once in a while and harasses me because that's
So yeah, that was like an amazing stream last week. You guys did an amazing job, and I commend you for your good deeds. And then there's this weekend. This weekend, Ben has a thing going on called the 2-hour album challenge. Where I will be participating actually in a couple of hours here. And then Ben has already done his part. And let's see, I know what it is, but Ben, why don't you go ahead and explain it, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, the 2-hour album challenge is a community music event where everybody gets together and does a 2-hour track challenge based on a randomly chosen theme at the start of the event. The theme for this block for Volume 2 is Stretch and Split, which can be taken any number of different ways. Somebody went with time stretching earlier and just like took some chord progressions and stretched them out really long and then made a super rad synthwave track out of it. I did kind of an IDM style track where everything's kind of glitched out and stretched and split and taken apart. But the challenge itself can be taken in any different way. Like you could split a watermelon and take the sounds from that and make a song that way. So it's basically open to interpretation. It's just an excuse for everybody to get together and make some music. And that also intends to benefit charity. All of the sales of the album is going to benefit a local animal rescue called Angel of Hope, which I love very, very much. We've gotten 2 of our cats from them, and I donate I think it's 10% of my Patreon earnings every month to them, just because I like them so much. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's going on until the end of tomorrow. And it goes on recursively. I think every 2 or 3 months we're doing it now. So if you wanted to check out more information, if you're a musician, you can go to 2hac.abstractionmusic.com, and we can go from there. There's a lot of information there for that.
Yeah. And just in case people are wondering if it's actually possible to make music in 2 hours, everything you're hearing in the background right now was written by Ben in 2 hours. Ben does
collectively, but
all of it. All 126 songs were written in 2 hours. No, well they were, but per song. But yeah, Ben does a 2-hour track challenge every week on his stream.
Ben can do a track a minute.
Ben does a 2-hour track challenge every week on his stream, and so that's actually our background music is basically all of those tracks. But I did the February 2-hour album challenge. I submitted a track. I also streamed that, and that was a ton of fun. If you are at all musically inclined, it is a great challenge to try to attempt. It's actually it's easier than you think, and it
sounds impossible until you do it.
Yeah, and once you realize how kind of freeing it is, because it's instead of agonizing over every decision, you make a decision and you go. And it doesn't matter if the thing at the end is great or, is your best work, but you have a song at the end of 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's why I love doing it. And I love all timed creative challenges like that, because in November there's the NaNoWriMo, I think, the National Novel Writing Month, where you're supposed to write 50,000 words of a novel over the course of November. And I really love the idea of that challenge. And there is one in November called the NaSoAlmo, which is the National Solo Album Month, where you are intended to write a solo album every over the course of November. It has to be 28 minutes or longer, something like that. So it sounds really daunting to sit down and be like, okay, I need to write 10 songs over the next couple days or a couple weeks, and it's just the ability to sit down and do that, and it's so satisfying, even if you don't finish. But if you end up with something, and that's the important part.
When the other interesting thing is, a lot of people put too much pressure on themselves for this stuff. And it's like, I did the National Solo Album Writing Month, and I think I spent like 2 hours making it because I did a half an hour long, like, kind of solo jam that I set up. It took me like an hour and a half to like set up all the pieces, and then it was like a half an hour long ambient thing that I did that, I mean, it doesn't have to be 10 3-minute pop songs. You know what I mean? It can be whatever you want it to be. So, and the same thing with the 2-hour album challenge or a 2-hour track challenge. For instance, Ben was talking about the theme this month, or this time around, and it's stretch and split, but it's how you interpret that. It doesn't have to mean that you stretch or split, your samples. It could be something else. It could just be the name of the song. It could be however you want it to, affect your work.
Yeah, exactly.
To be musically inclined.
So that's what's going on for me this weekend. So it's mostly I help administrate that. Like I am the founder of it, but I don't like thinking about it that way. I just want to help facilitate people make stuff. So it's all about me just trying to organize all the files. I've gotten 6 submissions already, which is awesome. And I just want to try to get everything wrapped up and ready to go. We're going to have a listening party Sunday night after the challenge wraps up, where basically we just sit down and listen to what everybody made, and it's going to be super fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. It was a blast the last time, and I can't wait to do mine this time. I'm walking in with a few ideas that I was messing around with last night. So it's always nice to start with something. Like, even if you haven't, you start with a blank canvas, but your mind is never a blank canvas. So, there's nothing wrong with coming in with a couple of ideas at the start of it. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to doing it, and I can't wait to hear everyone else's submissions. We've watched a few people's streams already, and they're going to continue throughout the week. So anyone who's streaming, if you get on Ben's Discord and go to the 2-hour track challenge channel, you can find out basically everything, who's working on it, who's already submitted, who's going to be streaming in a minute. All that kind of stuff kind of goes on in that channel, and that's kind of the best central location to hac.abstractionmusic.com, or like I said, get on Ben's Discord. So
this isn't an advertisement. This is just like whatever.
Hashtag ad.
Yeah, this stream brought to you by Campbell's Soup. Campbell's Soup, it's good.
Oh man. So yeah, that's what I've been doing right now, and that's kind of what I'm doing in the background right now while we're talking. So I apologize that I'm not always looking at you guys, but it's cool.
So
yeah, that's all good. It's one of those kind of things that's as creators, especially as busy as
all of us are.
As we are right now, it's like we're always multitasking, and it's actually, it honestly is actually a challenge for us to find time to do this sometimes. so because I remember that's part of why we kind of fell out of doing MSIS in the first place, was just time and capability, and the amount of work that had to go in behind the scenes. And Eric was kind enough to take over the publishing it to all the other locations like iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff. So it is very appreciated, Eric.
Oh, absolutely. My goal was to get the show going and have a thing, and if I can make that happen and I can facilitate it, and all you guys have to do is show up, then then I did my job.
Yeah.
Well, it's appreciated. Yeah, you are doing a good job. So
thank you.
Yeah.
So let's see. We can get on to our next our next topic here, and something let's. Do you want to go controversial? Are you guys comfortable with some streamer / video controversy?
Oh boy.
That's vague, but sure, why not?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, hit us with it.
Okay, so this is completely my opinion, and I don't want anyone to think that this is the opinion of the show or Ben or Tim's opinion, and I'm sure they're going to jump all over me for this. But I think it's unusual, or I don't think it's funny, but people who complain about YouTube, especially YouTube, when YouTube makes changes to their algorithm that, you know, are perceived to benefit certain producers and be a detriment to other producers, and people complain about it a lot online, as people are wont to do. And
Yeah.
I kind of think they don't really have a leg to stand on. And here's why. And I'm going to throw this out to you guys in a second, but I'm going to present my position. And that is, on YouTube, you're not the owner, you're the product. And same thing really on Twitch and Mixer, you know, whatever. I mean, really on all these services, they're providing a service to you for free, but you're the product. I mean, you are the thing, you're the content. You know, they're putting ads on your stuff, but you're the product. So, you know, YouTube doesn't have a vested interest in caring about, you know, how big or small you get, how much money you make off of AdSense or whatever. And you can complain about that, but there's nothing you can really complain about. I mean, the agreement is kind of, hey, I'll be the product if you put my stuff out there.
Yeah. No, I mean, that sounds about right. I don't disagree with that. And it's easy to say, well, it's like, oh, the people that complain about this are entitled, or, you know, they expect something that shouldn't be free anyway. But it's like, I don't know. You're not wrong, and I want to put that out first and foremost, because you're definitely not wrong in what you're saying. It's people get used to a product and get used to the way a product is executed and handled, and when that gets changed, that changes a lot of people's, not only like the way that they have to handle their own stuff, but their workflows and stuff like that. And people just hate change, and I think that it's more about people just not liking the idea of things changing, and it might just be a little bit more finding an outlet for that more than anything else, because it's like, you're absolutely right that YouTube and Facebook and all this other stuff, basically those sites are free because they own the data that gets poured into it. And yeah, like that's basically the contract you sign when you put your email address or username and password into the when you're creating an account. So yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, it just still sucks when things change.
Yeah,
and I agree as well. It's just, I think my problem is that it gets treated less. People get treated less as humans and more as a commodity. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of soullessness is what removes a lot of the air out of the room, if that makes sense. And so when there's more emphasis with these algorithms placed on certain people, like the bigger size people and things like that, I think the problem is that it doesn't it's much like if you draw a parallel to the way that like a monopoly works, and you get the big get bigger and the small have trouble growing. And so that's part of why I see a lot of complaints on many different places. I mean, Mixer's one of them, where discovery, and you know, I love the platform and that's my platform of choice, but the discovery on Mixer sucks. It's really hard to find new people. Yeah. And it's a growing platform, and that's all subject to change, and I'm sure they're looking into ways of fixing that. But that said, discovery is terrible on Mixer, and the people who are big are thrust to the top and front and foremost all the time, and the people who are smaller struggle with the scraps. They take what's left and they fight over it and that sort of thing, or people just don't trickle across the platform as some would hope they would, because if people come for Fortnite, they're going to stay for Fortnite. And they might not go watch somebody playing Star Wars Episode 1 Racer or whatever.
Fortnite's for real men.
No, it's PUBG. It's PUBG.
PUBG was for real men. I'm sorry. Fortnite's the baby game.
Yeah, Fortnite's the baby game. Inside joke from the 24-hour stream if you missed it. But that said, it's an interesting thing to see people, creators treated as a commodity when, yes, they own the rights to the data and they can kind of monetize it however they see fit. But that said, I wish that more emphasis was placed on helping people experience growth, because people are going to like what they like. And if you're an excellent creator, if you're great at what you do, but nobody's seeing your content, it doesn't matter. So that's kind of where the balance comes in and the struggle comes in. And I've always kind of had that question when they change these algorithms to favor bigger creators and things like that, is like yes, it's self-serving to them, but it's not helping, because they, that's might be preventing the next big person from coming in and bringing in millions more in money,
And I mean, that comes down to risk. I mean, are they willing to risk like a hero image on their front page to show somebody who might not be popular in 6 months or whatever, or show somebody who's popular now, show like fucking PewDiePie or whatever on the front page and be like, oh, everybody loves him, let's click on that link. So it's like it all comes down to risk, and it's easier to do the sure thing than risk the potential clicks on somebody who might not get them.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that's the way they think. That's not the way it should be.
Right.
I'm sure that's the way they think. It would be so easy for Mixer and Twitch and YouTube and all of these places to just have one box that just shows somebody who's streaming that has like 5 viewers, like somebody who's always bounce between streams that just have low viewers, and when that viewer count goes up, maybe it'll just bounce to somebody else. It's so easy to do.
But yes, but one of the things that Mixer has done that I commend them for is their featured list. Their featured streamers is the big carousel at the top that shows shows people, some of the bigger viewerships on the platform. And it used to be like the same 5 people would be on it constantly because they were always the biggest, so they would always get those slots. And it was kind of like, this isn't doing any good because they're showing up on the top of the list as well as on the featured carousel, and it kind of pushes out everybody. So they made a change that it'll randomly, they have some kind of algorithm behind it. I'm not sure how it works because they don't divulge that, so people can't game it. But it has some kind of algorithm behind it that goes out and finds people who are either doing well or starting to, like, their viewer count is rising, and then it puts them on that, and then their viewer count shoots up because that carousel everybody sees when they first hit the platform. So it's a really cool thing, and it's a simple change that has benefited a lot of people, and really, like, it encourages people to do better. It gives them some energy and makes them feel like, hey, maybe I can actually do this. Maybe maybe it'll work instead of having 0 viewers or 1 viewer all the time. So it's pretty interesting to see them make a simple change, like a small change like that makes such a far-reaching difference. And you can only be on it for 2 hours, I think, once a week or something. So it's always rotating through new people. So it's pretty stellar. I think that's pretty great.
That's pretty cool. But how do they guard against the guy who's got 5 followers and has 5 followers for a reason?
They don't. But if that person has enough viewers at the time and it meets all their other requirements for being on that carousel, then it'll put them up there. And if people don't like it, they're not going to follow and they're not going to stick around. This doesn't hurt anything to have them there. It's just if you make it there, then you have a chance of getting actual discovery versus being buried under a torrent of PUBG and Fortnite. Well, and so I think that's the value in it, is that regardless of how good or bad you are as a content creator, or how you may be perceived by other people, you have a chance. And that's, I think, the difference is with YouTube, it's like their algorithm is just completely, nobody knows it, and it just does its own thing, and it obviously favors very specific, larger subsets of content creators, and that's a problem.
Content, like creative content and stuff like that, is not very highly regarded unless, like, all your search history is like that, and then it focuses more on it. But,
right.
Yeah, and one thing I want to, so a couple of things. First of all, one thing I wanted to mention is I see a lot of parallels when people talk about the big creators versus small creators to the pre-internet music industry, where obviously larger bands that had a bigger following and had a bigger push, a bigger marketing push, had a huge advantage over the local band who had was 4 guys in a basement and their 10 friends would show up to all their shows, right? So, in one sense, I think the YouTube stuff isn't any different than it ever was. It's like the big get bigger, the small stay small. It's not like that's not really a new thing. Although I think the new wrinkle is like what you guys were saying on Twitch and Mixer, where take a smaller streamer and put them on the front page and give them some visibility, because maybe they are going to be an amazing streamer and they just need to get that following. So that's one thing I was kind of thinking. I had another point, but I don't remember what it was, so we're gonna have to keep going. I'm getting old, man. I'm getting old. So, I think I definitely see where people are coming from. But one thing that also I think is odd is people get used to and this isn't just on YouTube, but people get used to a certain business model, and then they think that business model's always going to be there.
Yep.
Right.
And when it changes or something, when something changes, people start to complain and start to yell and scream. And there's nothing in life that guarantees you that business model. I mean, looking at the music industry again, when Napster and then iTunes came around and then streaming music came around, like Spotify, that completely changed the game. And, it's adapt or die, you know what I mean? It's not like you have a choice. That's the way. Okay, this business model worked for X number of years, and now this business model is the new thing, so either embrace it and go with it, or
find a new platform that doesn't exist.
Yeah. And like, so is the answer like we all switch to Vimeo and luchador.com, or is that because I mean, Luchador has, they are the best streaming platform. I don't know why we're on Twitch right now, because I mean, Luchador is the place to be.
But I think therein lies the problem, because if you look at YouTube has never had a company challenge it.
No, they are pretty much a monopoly.
Yes, I mean, Vimeo has its place, but it's mostly art films and pornography, and that's.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
No, I'm not saying that to demean the platform. It's just that's kind of the difference. Is Vimeo kind of doesn't have any real restrictions on what you can post, as long as it's not like you murdering somebody or something like that. Like,
right.
It's very much an adult content friendly kind of place, and that's okay, but it's part of why they've never been able to really, I don't think, cause even a dent in YouTube's viewership. And there was VidMe for a while that came up, and that was a new way of doing kind of the static video type deal that was similar to YouTube, where you could directly support the creators by giving donations through a page or subscribing to them, and anybody, I think anybody of any size could receive those kind of benefits as long as they filled out the appropriate paperwork and stuff. They're no longer with us, rest in peace, but that said, like, there has never been a true competitor to YouTube. Now Twitch is kind of looking at getting into that game with their video hosting service, which I'm hoping that maybe at some point they can give YouTube a little bit of that challenge, because if you look at Twitch never really had a competitor. I mean, there was like what was Smashcast?
Justin.tv, or did that turn into Twitch?
Justin.tv turned into Twitch. That's what Twitch started as.
Yeah,
Twitch was a sub page, a subsection, a subset of Justin.tv until it got to be bigger than Justin.tv. Then they just shut Justin.tv down and did Twitch.
And there used to be Ustream. There's still Livestream.com, which I think is a paid.
Periscope
I think Livestream.com is a paid product.
Well, yeah, there's like Periscope and there's Picardo, which is for art. But that said, those are like for, they're minimal. Yeah, they're very focused on one specific thing. Like Periscope is real life streaming, and Picardo is art streaming. But there was no real competition until Mixer came along. And if you look at what happened to Twitch as soon as Mixer came along, they went, holy crap, and they started like rolling out their own variation on interactive, and they lowered their delay even further, and like all this stuff to try to keep people on the platform, because Mixer has actually given them something to think about. Whereas YouTube's never had, they've been like, you know what, screw the content creators, they got nowhere else to go. We're gonna go ahead and sell our ads the way we want to do it, and they can't say anything because they have nowhere else to go.
So here's my question. What is YouTube doing right? Because if all of the competitors to YouTube have essentially not gained traction, they've either gone under, or there's something like Vimeo where it's a very limited audience and they don't they don't get the numbers nearly that YouTube does. What YouTube must be doing something right that's keeping competitors out of the market, because
it's owned by Google.
Google can like push their searches up to the top. I mean,
so that's that is becoming illegal in a large part of the world. Not necessarily in the US here, but in Europe, Google favoring their own search results is getting them in a lot of hot water. But that is a good point. They do have Google as a platform to help push stuff. But is that the only thing? I mean, that can't be the only thing. Is it inertia?
It's probably inertia. It's probably all the money that Google has too. Like, there's a lot of reasons why.
Well, it's infrastructure as well, because they can host. You can, like they have some absurd amount, like what was it, like 10,000 hours of videos uploaded every minute or something like that. Like something absurd. That's probably not accurate, but something like absurdly high every minute is uploaded to YouTube. No other place, unless they've got their own cloud infrastructure service like Amazon or Microsoft, are going to be able to even come close to competing with that.
Who own Twitch and Mixer respectively.
Correct, which is their focus right now. They're not focusing on static video, because live streaming, to be totally honest, is, in my view, is what's becoming bigger than these, standard video creation in a lot of respects. It won't ever replace it completely, but for video game content, which was becoming huge on YouTube, it's kind of dropped off a bit, which is why they made YouTube Gaming to support their own live streaming, and it sucks.
I mean, in all fairness, YouTube comments are well known and reviled for their lack of quality, and and what you have is essentially the people making YouTube comments in a chat room, which making YouTube comments in real time, which is great.
Yes.
So no wonder YouTube streaming is never going to be what is without some major changes and mod tools and all the things that like Twitch and Mixer have to kind of facilitate a better community. They're not going to have. They're just by the nature of YouTube, they're not going to have what streamers are really going to want.
Yeah, the toxicity of the YouTube's kind of culture is fosters toxicity, because YouTube never did anything to nip that in the bud. There's a lot of that on Twitch too, and I think it's because there's a lack of they put a lot of that moderation on the creators, rather than having an option. Like let me give an example for Mixer again, because that's where I know. Mixer has what's called the Community Action Team, or CAT, and quite honestly, the best customer service I've ever experienced on a platform of this type of streaming or content creation. If somebody says something racist in your chat and you report it, they're like, more often than not, their account is gone in minutes. And it's insanity how good and how quick they are to handle that, and that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they're like, the way they handle things, like they don't they enforce their terms of service extremely fiercely, and I think that's the big difference that I experience, because like you'll see people, like you'll go check somebody's comments on like YouTube and their like comment history, and all you see is vitriol and horribleness, and their account's still there, and it's like, why are they still around?
Yeah,
and just things like that. So
well, and adhering to the terms of service is something that really bothers me about Twitch in general too, because they really don't, and YouTube doesn't as well, but it's one of those things where, you know, if somebody does something awful or against the terms of service, if they're popular enough, Twitch is just like, whatever.
Yes.
Same with YouTube.
Yeah,
And,
like look at Ninja, look at PewDiePie, look at Dr. Disrespect, all that stuff. Like they're Dr. D's not so much, but Ninja specifically here on Twitch, like saying the N-word in any regard from a white dude is just like unacceptable in any context. And the fact that he is still streaming, I think he's streaming right now, is like, really, like if any smaller channel had done that and got reported for it, they would have probably gotten banned.
Yeah.
So it's selective enforcement that's part of the problem.
Yeah, and that bothers me a lot.
Yeah,
just in general.
Whereas on Mixer, it's the same. Like they apply it to everybody equally. Like I've seen it applied. You know, partners have gotten removed for breaking the terms of service. So
and that's how it needs to be. That's how it ought to be. Toxic in the chat is saying that YouTube doesn't seem to shun pre-made videos documenting people's entire lives, but Twitch does shun them. So that's interesting that Twitch is really looking for a particular type of content.
Yeah.
And YouTube is pretty much wide open, and I wonder if that's part of why YouTube is still so big. Also, is there is an infinite amount of content on YouTube, and not just amount, but an infinite variety. My parents can go on YouTube and find things that they like. I can go on YouTube and find things that I like. Teenagers right now can go on YouTube and find the things that they respond to, and they're all different things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so, I mean, that's one thing about YouTube, is the variety is huge, and I don't think Twitch and Mixer really compete with that in that way, because, I mean, really, the variety's not there. I mean, there's some variety, but, you know, for instance, I can go on YouTube for woodworking videos, and there's a huge community of woodworkers on YouTube. And they interface with like the rest of the maker community, and then like it becomes this whole broader thing. And that doesn't really happen on Twitch. No one's sitting there on Twitch with a bandsaw. You know, I mean, there are some crafters and there are some artists, and I don't want to take anything away from them. They do great stuff. I've watched a lot of art streams, but there's kind of a huge variety. I mean, anything you're into is on YouTube versus, you know, nobody has like a model railroading Twitch account.
There's this really cool site that somebody linked to me a long time ago that I haven't really explored, but it's called, and I'll put it in the chat so we can put it in the notes. It's called Astronaut.io. I am going to read what this does. It's basically a site where these videos come from YouTube. They were uploaded the last week and have titles like DSC 1234 and IMG 4321. So basically just raw camera dumps. They have almost zero previous views. They are unnamed, unedited, and unseen by anybody but you. I want to go through these and just like start sampling them, because that sounds really cool to just grab random sounds from people's lives. But I have a feeling that this would probably be a lot of fun just to sit down and just kind of see what random crap people upload. And I have a feeling that a lot of it is like automatic uploads when like you connect your phone to the computer or whatever. It's like,
some kind of application or something. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've been meaning to look at this for a while, and when we were talking about YouTube and just the amount of stuff that gets posted to YouTube, I mean, this is kind of what YouTube is for. It's almost like a repository more than a
it's almost like cloud storage for videos.
Yeah.
A little
and
bit.
I think that's kind of like YouTube feels more like an extension to me of like
toxic.
More like an extension to me of Google Drive rather than like than like Twitch or Mixer do, because those are focused and the content is very specific, and there's very specific rules around that content, terms and things like that are very heavily enforced. Whereas on YouTube, it's kind of like, it's a bit more of a free-for-all, I think.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things about YouTube, though, that when people complain about the algorithm and all the, the changes that they make, and one thing I think people sometimes forget is that YouTube is providing a service to you, and like I said before, you are the content, but YouTube is in business to make money. I mean, just like any other business, right? Like you don't complain about going to Target and paying for a thing there, because obviously Target's trying to make money. Well, but I mean, if you do, then.
But granted, you're not providing Target the stuff to sell.
Nope, that's true.
That's the difference. Is when you go to YouTube, you're the creator of that content. That's your content. You own that content. They own the rights to reproduce it and play it and send it out.
Actually, they don't own those rights either. You grant them those rights by uploading your stuff.
Correct.
It's more along the lines of going to Target and them allowing you to set up like a table where you can sell your own stuff.
Yes.
And then, 3 months into that whole process, they're like, well, we don't want you to do it this way anymore. You have to do it this way.
Right.
And you're just like, okay. So yeah, you're creating the content, but you're also, I mean.
So what we're saying is YouTube is the flea market of videos.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I would say it's the flea market of video content, and
farmers market. Yeah.
If you go set up that table and you don't like the way that they do things, it's your right to pick it up and move it and go somewhere else. The problem is there's not really anywhere else to go right now. So,
I mean, there is. You just don't. Nobody's happy with the options.
Well, yeah, there is.
I mean,
you could set up your table somewhere else, but nobody goes there, and you would never make money.
Right. But I guess the question then becomes, do you have a right to another choice? I mean, in all fairness,
right to the choice.
No. That's not what I mean. I don't mean should the other choice exist or not exist. I mean, like, if you live in a small town and there's only one flea market and there's no place else to go, and you decide you don't want to do that anymore. I can tell Ben is really engaged in this discussion.
Yep. We're good.
I agree with where you're coming from, but I think if you're looking at it that way, it's let me draw a parallel here and see what you guys think. Is ISPs, right? Those are a service. Right? So if you look at ISPs, most places only have one option, like Comcast, anything else like that, that you only get one choice, and they can screw you however they want. Yep. Pretty similar with YouTube. Like, there are options, but they all kind of sort of suck comparatively. Like, their speeds aren't as good, or they don't offer what you need. So is that something that should be, how should that be handled and treated? I think is a great question.
Well, are we supposed to subsidize YouTube? A government-owned property, or does it?
Or does it need to be regulated? I mean, is that where we're kind of coming from here too? Is, I mean, I think the ISP example is actually a really good one, but then there is no solution to that right now. For instance, my ISP is Xfinity or Comcast, and I'm stuck with them. It's either them or I go to DSL through CenturyLink.
Satellite.
And DSL's not an option.
DSL's not an option. It's terrible. And then satellite's just
satellite,
which is just
terrible too.
Just as bad. So if I want true high-speed internet, I have one option, and the question kind of is that is that something we need to regulate? I mean, obviously, in terms of ISPs, we most people, I think, feel like they would love to have more choices. Does somebody start bringing a I forget the right wording, but essentially does somebody start looking into YouTube's monopoly and seeing if there needs to be a change there, new regulation or applying old regulations?
Yeah, and it's a really, really good question, because then the argument is, because they offer a streaming service, does that mean that Twitch is a true competitor to them?
Right.
And if that's the case, then technically there's no monopoly. So that there's so many, because of how slow law is to catch up to technology, you run into the issue where, there's no real, in terms of law, there's no real differentiation between static video and live stream video. Video content is video content, and your IP is your IP, but you just kind of got to roll with it. So like I could see the argument that because they offer a live streaming service, then their direct competitors would be Twitch and Mixer, which are big enough to satisfy that it's not a monopoly. So that I think, I could see that being the argument, and there are just so many loopholes without the law catching up that it bears a lot of questions that I don't know if we would be capable of answering, with me being a completely uneducated stooge when it comes to law and copyright and stuff, so and business law. So
well, luckily we have our lawyer here, Ben. And he can
in all my free time I've been practicing law.
No. One thing I was also kind of wondering is, or one thing I shouldn't say wondering. One thing I wanted to mention was, Tim was saying that law is really slow to catch up. And what's funny is the reason that you can get away with more on cable than you could over broadcast TV, and the reason you can get away with just about anything you want on streaming versus any kind of TV, is you're bypassing FCC restrictions. The restrictions were all written for broadcast over the air.
Yep.
If you broadcast over the air, you are subject to their, kind of censorship rules and all that stuff. If you're not broadcasting over the air and you're broadcasting over a cable, suddenly that changes. And now all of a sudden those rules don't apply, and you can say whatever you want and curse and scream and yell and everything else. And that's how we have, that's one of the reasons the internet is so kind of wide open, is because those things don't exist. It's interesting, I wonder what the next 10 years are going to be for video content and YouTube and Vimeo and and Twitch and Mixer and all that stuff, because all this stuff is changing super fast. And the question kind of is, with something like YouTube, if enough people get fed up with it. We're seeing it with Facebook now with all the privacy concerns, that everyone, in all fairness with Facebook, just a brief aside here, the privacy concerns were there for years. They're just now suddenly, in the limelight, but a lot of people had been, avoiding Facebook for a long time. Or at least a vocal minority, talking about their privacy stuff, and now it's finally blown up in their face, and people are starting to abandon Facebook. And does that happen to YouTube? And if so, where do people go?
Right. Well, with Facebook, there are some viable alternatives. They're not one-to-one alternatives, but things like Twitter and other social media sites are options. And I think
like Ello and what was the other one that popped up there's one that popped up 2 months ago as well. But
oh yeah, the one that disappeared really quick.
Yeah, because it was it wasn't a scam, but
wasn't it run by a really shady dude?
It was run by a scumbag.
Was it Peach or Pear or something like that?
No, I think it started with a B. I can't remember.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I can't remember. I can't rember the name.
It's not worth discussing though. Everybody discovered it.
Yeah.
Owned a monopoly in India or something.
And had really bad human rights violations or something. He was a scumbag. So that kind of fell apart. But that said, people are thirsty for a one-to-one Facebook replacement that will not mistreat their data. And I think the market now is wide open for that. And I think I think, you know, you look at monopolies and things like that, but I think that Facebook, it truly is easier to make a social networking site without all the bells and whistles, like with image upload, because that one that you mentioned with that was run by the really shady guy, that had no video upload but only image upload. Mm-hmm. And people were still going there in droves to give it a try because people are hungry for a replacement for it. And I think that infrastructure-wise, you may, if you utilize something like AWS or Azure or Azure, you could definitely take advantage of people's desire to move to a new platform. Whereas video is not so easy because of video size, bandwidth restraints, and all that stuff. So
yeah, and
the
I mean,
infrastructure for a video site is massive. It's enormous.
Oh, and you have to have we'll try that one more time. But you have to have servers all over the world essentially to really make it work and make everything low latency. Although with something like AWS or Azure, that's how you do that. Yes. Because they've already put the infrastructure in place. Now you just rent it essentially. But all right, if you had to replace YouTube right now, where do you go, Ben?
I don't know. Probably Twitch.
Twitch? You're gonna upload VODs to Twitch, and that would be your plan?
I mean,
No.
I would go.
Not a criticism, just a question.
No, I know. I honestly don't know. I mean, I would go where whatever little following I have, I would follow that. So I guess I would go to Twitch.
Tim?
Post stuff on Discord, I guess.
There's a very good reason that I currently do not upload to YouTube, and that's because I stream on Mixer and they hold my VODs for 90 days right now. It's not permanent, but someday maybe it will be.
All right, you need to hold your VODs for longer than 90 days. Where do you go? Obviously not YouTube.
Well, I mean, quite obviously, it would be if that was the sole reason that I'm creating content was for the VODs, then Twitch. Yeah, in a heartbeat. I mean, Twitch is a great service. I would never knock Twitch for not being a good service. It does the job. It's relatively stable, and it's not a pain in the ass to navigate. So
all right, Tim, I'm sorry you failed the test. You're no longer a Mixer partner. This was all just a ruse to see what your loyalty was. No. No. So I'll be honest. My first thought is Vimeo. Only because I know it's there and I know it's a similar service, and every time I've gone to Vimeo, it has been a good experience. And that's not just because there's porn on Vimeo.
No, Vimeo's not a bad service. I really like their site.
I've just never used it. That's why I didn't say it.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it.
I'm not familiar either. Now, for me, because of the content I create, honestly, I don't necessarily need it, if that makes sense. Like Vimeo and YouTube are not ideal places for 8-hour streams.
Oh yeah, totally.
So people aren't going to watch those. They want edited, trimmed videos, and that's not something I have the time or energy to put into. So
no.
Oh yeah, no one sits and watches an 8-hour VOD. Or I mean, it's very rare. Do you have those numbers, Tim? Any sense? I mean, you don't have to give out raw numbers, but just any sense of like what number of people are looking at your VODs?
Yeah, I can look real quick. Hold on. So. I mean, I don't get a ton of viewership on my VODs anyways, but my COD ones usually average 11 to 12, and I mean, I'm not big, so that would scale, I guess.
Well, and I mean, I can show my numbers for the streaming that I do.
Yeah, your VODs, in all fairness, Ben,
2 hours, 2.5.
Yeah, your VODs are a little shorter. They might be a little bit more rewatchable or watchable after the fact. Not that Tim,
I don't know if they're watchable.
Not that you're not watchable, Tim.
Generally,
I'm absolutely not.
Generally, like the song that I make gets about 3 times as many views as the process of making the song. Roughly.
Gotcha.
It depends on the thing, but usually, like right now, I'm sitting at about 100 views for the song and like 30 views for the VOD to make the song. So I mean, there's definitely a drop in viewership just because people see that, oh, this is 2 hours. I'm not flipping watching that.
Right.
So, I mean, they see those numbers and they just kind of walk away from it.
Well, let me put it this way. I have 233 subs on YouTube, and my 7 months ago I uploaded Killing Floor 2 it was a 4 hour 46-minute VOD, has 102 views, and that's with 233 subs. So
that's not bad.
No, and that should give you a good indicator. Now let me draw with another fairly popular Twitch streamer because he uploads almost all of his VODs to YouTube. So let's take a look. He did a Pokemon trading card game 7 hour 14-minute VOD. It has 40,000 views.
Wow. Now,
So-
You don't know how many of those are people just popping in for 5 minutes and being like,
Yeah.
oh, this is too much work.
Correct.
yeah, how many of those people are skipping around and then 10 minutes later they're on to the next thing?
And that's fair, but I mean, just to draw more parallels, he has a Papers, Please full playthrough that was 5 hours and it has 146,000 views. So just to throw numbers out there, I mean, we can't dig into how long people have watched it. I don't think.
You know what's funny though? Now that I think about it, I would do that. And I've done that with Loading Ready Runs VODs when they do either playthroughs or like they do. I can't think of Watch and Play, where Alex and Graham sit down and play truly awful games and asset flips and things, which I love. I'll put that on, and it's 3 hours long. I'll put it on my other monitor, and then I'll sit down and do something on my main screen and have that going, and have something
a
to.
VOD really is no different than the stream. You just have the stream open more or less in another monitor. And
Exactly.
That's growing. That same mentality, that same style is growing just as quick as streaming, in my view. So YouTube offers that up, but Twitch also offers it. So it's one of those deals that's like, it's just really interesting to see because, I mean, I don't have any of Brown Man's metrics, but I can safely say that out of 146,000 people watching a 5 hour VOD, not all of them are going to click away immediately. So
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, well, cool. So I think we've solved the world's problems yet again.
Oh, yes.
I think everyone is now knows that they need to switch to Vimeo or Twitch.
Or Mixer.
Don't use XSplit and oh, come on, Tim. I know you heard me.
I'm ignoring you. We're not talking anymore.
He's contractually obligated to ignore you.
That's right.
Exactly. I am contractually obligated not to respond to you.
I was trolling Tim all night last night in the chat, and I will troll him on the show today. So, all right.
I'm right now trying to. I'm kind of curious. I want to look at my analytics for that 102 view video and see how many people clicked off quickly or what. So,
Oh yeah, that's cool.
I want to see if I can find that real fast. Here we go. So let's see. How do I do over? I don't want to do the last month. I want to do the last like 7 months. So the average view duration over the last month has been almost an hour of a 5 hour VOD, which isn't terrible. So
That's cool. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty solid.
yeah. So and that's only 14 views over the last month, but still out of 14 people, average watching an hour, that's pretty decent. So
Yeah, that's somebody's watching 15 minutes and somebody's watching 2.5 hours, and it averages out somewhere. So that's pretty great for a 5 hour long video.
Yeah. So average view duration actually goes up over the last year. So this year, over the last 5 months. So hour and 33 minutes is the average.
Nice.
So yeah. So there you go. So I can imagine that because Brown Man is much more popular and has a much higher subscriber base, he would probably hold a much higher retention in terms of viewership.
Cool.
So there you go. There's some metrics.
All right. So, well, I think unless anybody has anything else, I think we can wrap it up for the week.
Yeah.
So,
was a good
Tim,
chat.
Tim, where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Mixer at mixer.com/insertcointheater. You can find me on Twitter at insertcointim, because Insert Coin Theater is just too darn long for Twitter. And then you can check out the ICT community on Discord at discord.gg/ICT. Please come hang out with us. We love you.
Cool. Ben, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, Patreon, and YouTube at /Ben_Burns.
Cool. And you can find me at ZaxxisEMK, twitch.tv, or youtube.com/EricKleinCreate. And I'm also at ZaxxisEMK on Twitter. You can find the show at mandatorysocial.com. Our theme song is Protofunk by Kevin Macleod. You can find more of Kevin's music at incompetech.com, and all of our background music was by some weird composer guy named Ben Burns. I don't know who that is.
Right.
Anyway,
Thank you very much.
That fills our social interaction quotient for the day.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, I think you were going to start saying that.
That's okay. I forgot to write it in the notes here, so I will write it for next week. But I think that does fulfill our mandatory social interaction quota. So for that, I'm just going to shut up and have a good week, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.